G'day boys and girls, it's here. You asked for it. The KP001G 40 volt Makita planer. In the US that'll be the GPK01. Full disclosure, I have been using this tool already and I can't wait to show you how good it is, so I'm going to try and pump through the specs and the features pretty darn quick. So let's get into it. Many of you will be familiar with the 18 volt version and I will be putting it up against that shortly. This is the 18 volt brushless version. This is an awesome tool. How does the 40 volt compare? We'll look at that shortly. But if you're used to this tool, then you'll roughly know what you're going to get with the 40 volt tool. And that is AWS for hooking it wirelessly to a vacuum cleaner. Onboard tool storage for changing your blades. A 25mm deep rebate capability. That's an awesome feature. The dust can be fired out either side. It comes with a guide fence, a depth fence, and a tool for setting your blades. This gets your blades in the right place so that when you put them in the tool, they don't end up on a slant. So you can use this to set the mini blades, but this tool takes both the mini blades and also the good old-fashioned old school nice big chunky ones. It has 3 different chamfering guides on the base here. You can get an optional guide for chamfering, so that attaches on both sides and sort of goes along holding your tool in exactly the right place. It has a cutting width capacity of 82mm or well over 3 inches. That's your basic standard planer width. So what's the difference between this and the 18 volt then? Well, let's take a look at this number here. That's 15,000 RPM. The original 18 volt LXT, the brushed version, was also 15,000 RPM. Whereas the 18 volt brushless version is 12,000 RPM. So it dropped 3,000, but now they've given us that 3,000 back again. And boy does it make a difference. The 18 volt has a fuel gauge. As you can see there, 2 red lines indicating the battery is a little bit depleted, whereas the 40 volt doesn't need that because it's got the easy access on the top of the battery there to check your batteries. But here is the wow number. The 18 volt cut to a depth of 3mm in one pass. I don't think any other cordless planer cuts to that depth. I haven't seen one anyway. Most of them are only 2 and a lot of them can't even get to that. So when I saw that this one was a 4mm depth of cut, I got pretty excited. I mean, that is deep. Most corded ones don't even go that deep. Only high-end corded ones have a 4mm depth of cut. I was skeptical about this tool being able to cut 4mm in a comfortable fashion. But I guess we should take a look. I asked you guys what batteries you wanted to see, whether you wanted to see the 2.5s or the 5s, and you gave me all sorts of answers. Most probably wanted the 2.5, can't really remember, and a lot of you wanted the 5. A lot of you, of course, wanted to see that and wanted to know the difference between that and that and that and that and that and that. Yeah, and some of you wanted to see the 4 as well. I've only got so much timber, guys, but let's go take a look at this thing. There's a lot of guys that still comment in my videos saying there's no point in the 40 volt system, it's not that much different to the 18 volt, there's not that much power and you don't need it. Well, there's a saw in the background there that you're never going to get on an 18 volt tool. There's several other 40 volt tools that just smash 18 volt tools. The grinders just smash the 18 volt ones. And this tool, boy oh boy. When the person who coined the phrase "the first cut is the deepest" did so, I'm sure they probably didn't mean a planer. But here we go, 4mm depth of cut, 8 amp hour battery, full width of cut, and there's a knot. Ooh, this is going to be mean. Wow, that was much easier than I thought it was going to be. Got a bit caught up when I got to that knot. It wasn't that it was struggling to cut it, it was just that it caught somewhere on the front of the tool and it wouldn't move. But wow, that was no effort at all. This video is going to get messy real quick. Okay, so I wasn't going to use a piece of timber this size and be this mean to these tools, but seeing as that did it so easily, I'm now going to try the 18 volt with the 5 amp hour battery set to its fullest depth setting of 3mm, and we'll see how it does. So she did it, bit slower, but it can do it. What does the other one look like at 3mm? Holy shit, this thing's a beast. What happens if I try that with a 2 amp hour instead of the 8? 2 amp hour battery, 4mm cup. This tool is awesome. This is gonna just chew through framing timber. Now just remember what I just did then with that 2 amp hour 40 volt battery is double the depth or more than any other cordless planer apart from the Makita 18 volt one. Chucked a 2.5 amp hour on there. I'm going to do a pass at 1mm, 2mm, 3mm, 4mm just to show you the difference. Super impressed. But before we go any further, I've got something to give you fellas and fellesses. StealthMounts sent me some 40 volt battery holders and 40 volt tool holders. These dealies here, and I've got too many. He sent me too many, so I'm going to give some away to you guys. So let me know down below where you live, just roughly. Don't tell me your address, just tell me your country, and say something funny if you want. You've got more chance of winning if you say something funny. I'll draw it next Friday on my Instagram page, which I'll put up in this top corner if I can. If it's not up there, take a look down in the description. It will be down there. And if you want another chance to win another set, head over to Patreon. That's down there as well. And at the end of this video, there'll be a link to Patreon. I'll be giving away another one of those in 1 week's time as well. At the moment, you've got a better than 1 in 50 chance of winning that over on Patreon. And if you just can't wait to see if you've won any, I will try and find some links to different places around the world, New Zealand, America, UK, etc. down there in the description, and yeah, you can buy your own. Now, I haven't written the word giveaway or anything in the title of this video to try and stop bloody scammers that always try and infiltrate these things on YouTube and Instagram. So if you get a comment that looks like it's from me, that says you've won and asks for your credit card details or something for shipping or anything, I will never charge you anything, okay? It'll get shipped to you for free from me. So make sure it says tools and stuff and it's highlighted in a grey sort of colour. I think it's grey. Anyone can have the avatar, they steal that all the time, but nobody can have that extra highlighted name unless they are the channel owner. So keep a lookout for that. Don't fall for scammers, and the results will be over on Instagram. Stall test? What do you reckon? Stall test? Let's go for a stall test. Stall test, 2.5 amp hour battery, 4mm depth of cut. Wow, that took a bit. And it might have only been because it got to the knot that it actually stopped. Look at that. Look how deep that is. That is awesome. Whenever you do stall it like that, check it's not full of shit, because they do tend to block up with shit. So far this one hasn't blocked up, which has been impressive. Seems to have plenty of blow to get all the rubbish out. I know some of you are going to want to see it up against other planers. If you've watched my video that I'll put up in the top corner up here and down in the description, I tested the 18 volt Makita versus the DeWalt versus the Hikoki versus the Milwaukee, and the Makita absolutely smashed it, and that was the 18 volt one. So there's no point in me putting this up against the other ones, it'll just make them look silly, really. I think the king of cordless planers is here. This is a beast. Oh, with the price of timber at the moment and the difficulty of getting it, it hurts a bit, but yeah, it's not the greatest piece of wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the 18 volt and the 40 volt. I'm going to run a few lengths on this thing. We'll do them, how shall I do this to make it fair so you guys don't complain. There'll be a 5 amp hour battery on the 18 volt and a 2.5 amp hour battery on the 40 volt. I think that's roughly what you guys wanted when I asked. It was a bit hard to tell, everybody wanted all sorts of different things. I can't do every combination and someone's always going to complain. I'll run the 18 volt at its full depth of 3mm, and we'll run the 40 volt at its full depth of 4mm and see how they go. That's all I can do, eh? 3 meters long, each pass 3 meters. Remember, this is already the best 18 volt planer. Is there really any point in proving it any more than that? All I'm going to do is cost myself a heap of money in timber. If that doesn't convince you, then don't bother watching my videos, okay? If you're in the market for toxic pine chips, give me a call because I got a plenty. Okay, a lot of you are going to want a runtime test, and it's hard to do the same thing over and over again, exactly the same depth with a planer. It's sort of not really what you do. You change the depth all the time, you feather it off, all these sorts of things. This bit of wood's already pretty much knackered, I suppose. So I'll just run this until I can't cut any further without it causing damage, hitting the nails in the bottom or whatever. And we'll see how that 2.5 amp hour battery does. It was fresh on before that cut. I just charged it up again after previous cuts you may have seen. And we'll see how good it does. I checked that 18 volt as well, and it's already down 1 bar. That was from that cut and the cuts you saw through that 4x3. Anyway, let's do it. Whoa, hold it right there, hang on a minute. This is going to get too long if I include that runtime test, so I'll chuck that up in the top corner up here on my other channel, Builds and Stuff. What do you mean you've never heard of Builds and Stuff? Get over there and subscribe to that one up there. The run test will be over there. I started raking up all the shavings, but then I realized you guys are going to want to see the 5 versus the 8, aren't you? So let's take a look at that. In fact, let's do a pass with the 4, the 5, and the 8. 3 meters with each at 4mm depth of cut. Fully charged, fully charged, fully charged. Well, I had a bit of a problem there with the 4 amp hour battery. It just kept clogging up, so I had to slow it down a bit for the pass that you will have just seen compared, because it just kept doing this. Three times, three bloody blockages, damn it. Overall though, I've found that this particular tool does it less than the 18 volt one. It seems to have more power to fire out and eject the chips a lot quicker than the 18 volt version. But it is still a problem when you're trying to do a big deep cut like 4mm at speed, which is kind of to be expected. If you had a good vac on there sucking it out, you should be okay. Mind you, you might clog up your vac pretty fast, because that's a lot of material being removed. But you could definitely feel an advantage with that beast. It is a monster of a battery to have on a tool though, and you wouldn't want to be sort of doing a wall or anything above your head with that monster on there. This thing works brilliantly with a 2.5 amp hour, so I'd be quite happy just to use it with that. Bonus shot, cross cut, 4mm depth, full width. Look at that. Now I had to change sides there from cutting from that way to this way, because this actually sticks down too far. You can only cut to 3mm with that. When you go to 4mm, that is going to get in your way. So if you're trying to plane a big flat surface like this, that's going to be a nuisance for you. Not something I do too often, and you can always do it at 3mm. So this tool has power to burn, especially if you're using it with one of these 5 amp hour or 8 amp hour batteries. There will be a full review of this 8 amp hour battery coming up shortly, so stay tuned for that. Looking at weights, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, this is about 3 kgs, this is about 100 grams heavier, about 3.1, but when you chuck on batteries, if you've got a 5 amp hour on there and a 5 amp hour on there, you're looking at about half a kg heavier using this compared to that configuration. If you're doing horizontal stuff, not really an issue, because the weight of the tool is on the wood, and sometimes the weight behind it can sort of help keep it all flat and level and everything. But if you're going straightening up walls, then yeah, you might want to use a 2.5 amp hour battery just to get you a bit more lightness and then get it equivalent to the weight of this one. If you are wanting to cut a flat surface, by that I mean something like a bench like this, you will have a problem at the full 4mm depth, as you will have seen with that cross cut. This housing here will hit your bit of wood. You can't cut more than 3mm. This is set to 3mm, which was what they built the 18 volt one for. They haven't modified that part of the tool, so when you get to 4mm, this will crash. So if you're doing a flat surface, you can't go deeper than 3mm. Not something I do very often, and not really an issue. And you're flattening off a slab, 3mm in one pass is still pretty impressive. Far better than any other cordless plane all that you do. It of course has that 25mm rebate on the other side, so I flipped it around in that video, and I could have gone down to 25mm of depth, just cutting like that, and before it crashed on the other side. By comparison, most cordless planers only do about 8 to 11mm. Because it's got that 25mm rebate, it's perfect for planing weatherboards, which is fantastic. So I'm happy with it. Well, I'm more than happy with it. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know if there was really going to be much of an improvement over the 18 volt, seeing as they'd not long released that 18 volt one really, and I thought, oh, they've probably just slapped a 40 volt battery on it basically. But it is better than the 18 volt brushless version by quite a significant margin, I think. It's a fantastic planer. If you want one, I've just been into Handy Hardware again this morning, and they had 2 left in stock, so grab one there if you want. I'll put a link down in the description. I'll put any other links I can find if you're living in other parts of the world. Also down there will be some StealthMount links if you're interested in StealthMounts for holding your 40 volt tools. I'll put some links to in New Zealand to get them, and around the rest of the world. I haven't got all mine set up yet because I want to put them in my new shed that I'm building. There'll be videos of that coming soon, hopefully at some point up on the other channel up in the top corner here, although they are already on Patreon if you want to take a look at that. And I'll be giving away more tools on Patreon coming soon. such as a sander and possibly that tool in the background there. So let's wrap this up, and I will see you on another one real soon. Cheers, guys. Oh, and does anyone want to buy an 18-volt Makita planer? One careful owner. It's in perfect condition. Look at the size of that.